WrestleMania 42 is officially in the books, and whilst Night 2 received acclaim for the quality of the matches, Night 1 was heavily panned across the board. The criticism for the show didn't just extend to the in-ring product itself, as the show felt completely soulless in parts. An over-reliance on celebrity involvement, a focus on ad revenue, and a pesky Hulk Hogan commercial led to one of the most criticized WrestleMania events of all time. How exactly did WrestleMania go from the biggest show of the calendar year to the show that feels empty and soulless? 35 years, WWE used a one-night format for the biggest show of the year, and for the most part, this worked very well. The biggest wrestlers and the biggest matches would be featured on the show. However, by the time we got to 2016, there was a big push from fans to see every talent under contract making the card. This meant that typically a 4-hour broadcast could run up for up to 7 hours, including a pre-show. This completely killed the concept because matches in the second half of the show were met with utter silence, and fans just wanted to go home at that point. The energy was also felt with those watching at home, as the second half of the show became extremely difficult to sit through, and for international viewers, it became a chore more than a pleasant experience. So therefore in 2020, mainly linked to the COVID-19 pandemic, WWE decided to introduce the two-night format, and for the next few years, this worked incredibly well. The matches could breathe, and fans didn't leave the shows feeling absolutely exhausted and defeated. WWE also managed to have two respective cards with two respective main events, and this created a competition of sorts amongst talent, which resulted in some universally acclaimed Night 1 main events, including Sasha Banks vs Bianca Belair and CM Punk vs Roman Reigns vs Seth Rollins. However, this popular format would change when TKO took over, and what was once two enjoyable nights of pro wrestling became a show that wasn't focused on the in-ring product, and this has massively hurt the overall reception of the product itself. TKO Mania. The thing started off positively at first in the TKO era. There was a focus on giving Triple H free reign to do whatever he wanted with the product, and there was an extended focus on talent welfare, the latter of which received a ton of praise from talent, as house shows were basically abolished and talent could even request time off via a special app. We thought things would generally improve. Unfortunately, this wouldn't last, as sooner rather than later, it became apparent that TKO only cared about dollars and cents. Due to contracts with streaming partners, adverts would be a commonplace, but WWE would even begin to go all in on the advertising, with adverts literally everywhere, ranging from the ring mat to the wrestler's own merchandise. I mean, hell, at this point, we would have thought that Bianca Belair would have come out with a Capital One sponsorship on her belly. Obviously, I say that jokingly, but this has become far too much. And whilst it's absolutely understandable that TKO wants to make as much money as possible, most of these sponsors get lost in the shuffle. For instance, if you asked a fan who watched WrestleMania 42 to name one of the sponsors from the show, there's a strong chance they couldn't. All of them just merge into one. And there's no way these businesses think that this is a positive return on investment. We had two gaming movies being advertised, both Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. We got gambling adverts with Tiffany Stratton and Drew McIntyre. We had banking advertisements. Even insurance mascots were there. Alarm bells began to ring when it came to TKO in 2025, when Elimination Chamber ticket sales were disappointing. TKO execs went directly to The Rock to help out, and in that, Irie Emanuel bypassed Triple H in doing so, which was a contested move to say the very least. The Rock even admitted this in later interviews, which made Triple H and WWE look completely inferior. This highlighted a lack of trust in WWE and Triple H, and the fact that The Rock decided to eventually dip was a sign that TKO shouldn't be meddling in the creative aspects of the company. Even the inclusion of rapper Travis Scott was a TKO mandate, and this also backfired, as Scott was pretty much useless in the role, so much so that he had no interest in working with WWE in future programming. WWE would even commit to making the rapper a focal part of the WrestleMania event, a move which was heavily panned by fans, and even WWE practically retconned his involvement out of existence. Fans hoped that when it came to the 2026 WrestleMania season, TKO would leave WWE and Triple H alone. But of course, when ticket sales were down, they had to intervene in one of the most bizarre ways possible. Fans noted that the simple solution to low ticket sales is to, well, lower ticket prices. But TKO didn't think to do this until a few weeks before the show. Instead, they had an idea that didn't lead to ticket sales surging at all. Instead, it led to mainstream media outlets calling out the company for all the wrong reasons. Their idea was to go all in on celebrity involvement in the show. TKO would have Pat McAfee inserted into the Cody Rhodes vs Randy Orton angle, and this was one of the most controversial storylines in recent memory, as McAfee had no prior history with both men, and TKO's grand idea was for McAfee to crap all over the product. But granted, McAfee was a household name in WWE, having appeared on and off screen since 2018, but he was never a draw for the company, so it's unclear why TKO assumed that he would lead to a surge in interest in the biggest show of the year. The angle itself made everyone look terrible, and it's been theorized that this was TKO directly lashing out at Triple H and the company. It was subsequently reported that WWE talent and Triple H were livid, and this led to names such as Rhodes and CM Punk cutting unscripted shoot-style promos directly at TKO. Now, whilst this generated content for WWE and people were indeed talking, was this really the most appropriate angle for the biggest show of the year? WWE talent would bury the involvement of McAfee on television as well as in interviews. Most would mention that Pat McAfee has no business being in the main event of WrestleMania, and his involvement doesn't make any sense at all. It was all a confusing mess that didn't influence business in a positive manner, and there were direct calls from fans for TKO to stay out of the storylines indefinitely. Commercial mania. Specifically, WrestleMania highlighted the greed and incompetence of TKO as a company. Triple H receives a ton of criticism as head of WWE Creative, and while some of it is warranted, a lot of the core business decisions WWE make come from right above his head, and he has no control over adverts, sponsorships, or celebrity endorsements. One of the main criticisms of WrestleMania 42 was the sheer amount of commercials. There was a lengthy commercial after every match, and whilst this is now custom for every WWE PLE, when the women are getting under 10 minutes, it's become a major issue. Matches on WWE main event are longer than some of the matches on the WrestleMania card, and WWE should be ashamed with how little time was allocated to the women's matches across the two-night event. Even more disgraceful was when during Dragon Lee's entrance, the crowd could see an advert on the screens. Dragon Lee had one of the most elaborate outfits on the entire WrestleMania broadcast. His entrance didn't even make it to television, and that's incredibly insulting, and you could see in Dragon Lee's face that he was disappointed too. But the show was formatted in such a way where only 2 matches received build-up packages, which means that if you were a viewer who tuned in just for this show, you would have no idea why these matches are taking place. This is a fatal error, and it's as if TKO just doesn't care, as it may see the hype video as a waste of airtime when they could easily be plugging a sponsor of Dude Wipes or cutting to a celebrity in the crowd waving for 2 seconds, knowing that they're only there just because TKO comped their tickets. The TKO loves to act like the celebrities are the stars of the show, and this was seen with countless cuts to them throughout the 2-night broadcast. This was a massive shame, especially when there wasn't a single backstage segment or segments involving WWE legends. Even Stone Cold Steve Austin was backstage, but WWE didn't even opt to use him. That's right, one of the biggest stars in wrestling and a pop culture icon couldn't even make an appearance. For international viewers watching on Netflix, the platform still hasn't worked out what to present when ESPN goes to commercial break. Instead of ads, Netflix just shows a title screen with the most annoying music imaginable. Also for this year's WrestleMania, Netflix would decide to show a sneak peek of Hulk Hogan's documentary. And whilst this could have been a smart cross-promotion for the platform, Netflix showed the exact same clip around 13 damn times across the 2-night event. I have the moment of Linda Hogan giving Hulk Hogan his tights etched into my brain. This quickly became a meme on social media, with fans stating that Hulk Hogan was the most featured star of WrestleMania weekend, and unfortunately, this isn't hyperbolic. The live viewing experience of watching a WWE, specifically WrestleMania, has changed dramatically. The WWE pay-per-view format was always going to change when they went to a streaming site, but this doesn't mean that the complaints from fans aren't valid. Outside of engaging in a live viewing experience and engaging in social media discourse, there's no incentive to watch the show live in any capacity. Rewatching the show the next morning without the adverts, and if you're on the Netflix platform, it's a much more pleasant experience. And WWE and TKO need to realize that if this carries on, the norm is going to be watching PLEs on replays. The fact that fans are actively seeking out VPNs to watch on Netflix, and this was even encouraged by WWE last year, is telling. And it's just a counterproductive business practice that could hurt the company in the long run. WrestleMania 42 itself had other issues outside of some dull matches and commercials galore. Parts of the show felt like a humiliation ritual for fans. John Cena announcing the attendance numbers didn't receive a pop whatsoever, and the fact that Cena even referenced the contested topic of attendance was interesting to say the very least. It's even more embarrassing when you look at last year's number in the same stadium and it outdraws them by thousands. It's almost as if WWE likes to rub it in that fans may have spent a life-changing amount of money attending the show, and it's a surprise WWE didn't brag about the show being one of the highest gates of all time. WWE would even bizarrely have a Bitcoin tycoon on commentary for one of the matches, and it turned out that this man paid for the privilege. Rather hilariously, despite the fan paying to deliver commentary, he wasn't even given a live mic, and he just had to sit there awkwardly and watch the action. He could have done that at a ringside seat. What's even more alarming is now fans are encouraged to pay for experiences rather than simply paying to watch the show. WWE would even sell a ticket so fans could tour Cody Rhodes' bus, and this was reportedly 10,000 smackaroos. This price tag was heavily critiqued, and even Rhodes said the price was insane. Rhodes isn't the first name to call out TKO's pricing model, and even CM Punk addressed this pricing structure from TKO in an acclaimed promo on Raw. WrestleMania used to be an event for the fans, but now it's an event for the millionaires. Literally everything you can think of has a price at WrestleMania. You want to do commentary? Yeah, sure, pay $50,000. You want to have your name on the ring mat? Yeah, sure, pay $30,000. Who knows, next we'll probably see fans actually get in the ring and have a wrestling match, only for the small price of $100,000. Hell, even the food was just insane at the stadium, and granted, whilst this isn't a TKO decision, it's mainly down to the arena. Some people were paying $150 for a tomahawk steak, just so they could have WrestleMania engraved on the bone. Now, ultimately, WrestleMania isn't a show for the die-hard WWE fan, especially if you're attending live. The show costs so much to attend that tickets are now only affordable to those who are lucky enough to have a ton of wealth. While some may say this makes sense for a business to do, especially when they have over 50,000 fans in attendance, TKO really has to remember that the product may not be popular forever. If WWE sinks to creative lows and half-empty arenas become the norm, which has happened countless times throughout their history, then charging astronomical amounts of money for tickets for the biggest show of the year just simply won't be an option. What WrestleMania 42 has proved is the biggest show of the year has just become completely lifeless, and greed has taken over.